All right, you guys ready for one more? I see a lot of the same faces that we started the morning with, so congratulations for being with us from the start to the finish. I'm really excited about this last panel. It's a very inspiring panel, especially in the field of entrepreneurship, because what we're going to see for the next 35 minutes is we have current students, recently graduated students, as well as a professor that are building Web3 companies right now. We're going to learn a little bit about their journeys and what they're working on. Jake McEvoy, a couple years ago, was in the Thornton School of Music, engaged in a physical NFT project out of New York, found a co-founder, and they actually built a company digitizing these assets around 2020. Enzo Coglitore, I met him in class. He actually helps me on my teaching assistant job. He built he hasn't released it yet, but he built something in DeFi that hopefully he'll talk about for a bit. Zhang from HypeX built a NFT protocol that he'll share a little bit about. And Jack is a co-founder for EthSign, so you'll learn a little bit about how they're taking something like DocuSign from Web 2, bringing it to Web 3. Also a professor here at USC. Anybody take a class with Jack yet? All right. He's awesome. He's in the Viterbi school. If you have a chance of taking a blockchain class with him, highly encourage that. And the moderator for this panel will be Mike Ma. Mike Ma also, as an undergrad, was a co-founder at EthSign. He's the co-president of USC at Blockchain as well. So let's go ahead and give it up for this last group.
Good job. Hey. Thank you.
Well, so good to see everyone again here at the big stadium, the auditorium. So today we have our panelists from various startups. I shouldn't say startups because all these projects have got significant funding. So why don't we go ahead and each of you introduce yourself, what you do in crypto, and your background. So start with Jack.
Sure. It's great to be here. So for my background, I co-founded EthSign. And I also, I part-time lecture here at Viterbi School of Engineering. I teach the Solidity class in the blockchain minor, and next semester I'll be teaching the capstone class for the minor. A bit of background about myself. A fun fact, I started off college at Chapman University in Orange. I used to be a film student. And then I transferred to USC to do CS, and I got my master's last December. So this is now my second semester teaching. And yeah, that's about it.
Start.
Yeah, I was one of Jack's students, so graduated 2020 from Viterbi in computer science, and I started projects called HypeX last year. So we're utility NFT infrastructure, so basically just focusing on bringing different utilities to NFTs. So yeah, just be in the space for a while, and yeah, really excited to be here. Yeah.
What's up, everyone? I'm Enzo. I'm actually still a student here, senior. When I was a sophomore, I joined an early-stage company called Alchemy. Alchemy powers majority of the Web3 ecosystem. Joined when there was around 10 of us. Started doing work across marketing, product, sales, engineering. Most recently transitioned into running our venture fund there, where I invest in early-stage Web3 companies. Some of the companies that I've invested include Arbitrum, who's here today, Optimism, ZK Sync, Starkware, etc. And I'm also an avid angel investor in the space, working closely with early-stage projects, some that are released, some that are in stealth, and working on a couple projects myself. It's great to be here.
Hey guys, I'm Jake. I graduated USC last year. I co-founded a company called Creature World along with my friend Danny. He's a visual artist. Creature World started as a kind of underground New York City art project in like 2016, 2017. That was really based around like live immersive experiences and fine art, the works. When 2020 hit, everything kind of shuttered, and we were trying to figure out ways to make it as enticing in the digital world. And so I had been learning a lot about Web3 and all that kind of stuff in like 2020, 2021. We banded together and then started the Creature World NFT project, which it did pretty well in 2021, and we've used that as kind of like the launch pad for all other like initiatives that we've done in like the live world, in fine art, in Web3, and kind of everywhere. I studied music at USC, music industry, and I was originally an artist, and now I do that. Yeah. Great to be here.
Phenomenal. We got all stars here, and can each of you talk about, how or what got you down into the crypto rabbit hole?
I'll go. Well, I got in like how a lot of people got in by losing money. In 2017, right? You see, my memory's blurred because I don't want to talk about it. But yeah, by losing money. But then I looked at the technology behind it, and it's really unlike anything I've seen before. So I actually stayed for the tech, and that was my intro into crypto stuff.
So for me, I was in the space since 2016. So I was like entering a tech company doing like AI machine learning stuff. And fortunately, I went to a conference and I saw so many like different projects and people talking about like blockchain. But back at the time, I don't have any knowledge about blockchain. But I just feel like it's a technology that can actually change the world. So just self-learning, small contract and everything. And like Jack, lost a lot of money on like secondary market. And I guess that's, for a lot of people, that's how they get into space, because want to just, earning those lost back. So yeah, that's my story.
My path is a little untraditional. I actually got into crypto when I was 10. I ran a Minecraft server where I coded up my own server, changed some of the rules, and I wanted people to pay me. My parents had no idea that I was doing this, and I couldn't open up a PayPal account because I was under 18. So I go on the internet, and I'm like, okay, I need some way for people to pay me without them necessarily knowing, right, at that time, who I was, how old I was, etc. Discover this thing called Bitcoin. Start accepting Bitcoin. This is around the same time the guy buys Bitcoin, or a pizza with 40 Bitcoins. So got into crypto there, and I was like, wow, this technology is amazing. It allows us to conduct commerce globally across the world, pseudo-anonymously, with people who are interested in just exchanging goods and services. And from there, dove deep into crypto, right? But unfortunately, I was 10 years old, didn't keep my Bitcoin, or I wouldn't be here right now. And got into the space around 2017 again, right? Like Stark said, bought high, sold low. It was like, I really believe in this technology, but I think the industry needs to develop a little bit more. Got lucky, joined an early stage startup like Alchemy. We were able to work, our first customer was a customer called CryptoPunks. Second one was a customer called OpenSea. We're able to work with them from the beginning to kind of pioneer the idea of Web3, crypto, and from there, the rest has been history.
I guess my crypto journey started in 2017 when I was just like buying stupid coins in the cafeteria of my high school, and then making a lot of money and then losing a lot of money. And that was kind of like my intro to it. But then from there, kind of when everything shuttered in 2020, I got really interested in it from an artist perspective and from kind of like an artist owning their own media in a very different way, and like being compensated for that media in a different way. And so I got into it primarily from like a musical standpoint, and I learned a lot about the space, a lot about like digital collectibles and artwork, and started like collecting a bunch, and then got really interested in the idea of like creating something myself. And so I kind of partnered up with my friend who's a really cool visual artist, Danny, and we just kind of created this collection around his artwork that would be sold as NFTs. And then we kind of created all these experiences and experiments around it that like tested kind of trust in a digital world. And it tested kind of like what it means to really own a digital asset and like why that even matters. And so we've just kind of been like experimenting with that through this through this NFT project called Creature World. And then I joined this DAO called Friends with Benefits, which someone from USC actually founded a few years ago, Alex Zhang, along with Trevor McEvoy, and just got really into it from there. And now here I am.
Wonderful. So for someone that's new to this space or haven't got to this space at all, and we have a lot of students in the crowd that wants a job or want to start learning more about Web3 and working in Web3, what would your recommendations be for someone like that?
Take my class. Well, okay. So I think, so USC, we have a blockchain minor. And if you do a minor specialization, you only have to take, I believe, 2 classes. And if you don't want to be technical, that's totally fine because we have 2 non-technical classes. But outside of school, I think a lot of crypto people, for some reason, are very active on this thing called Twitter. And if you follow the right people, join the right conversation, I think honestly, in the beginning, if you just follow the right people, you can learn an awful lot of things. And Web3 has this nice thing where everyone is welcome to contribute. So if you write like a very nice blog post or a very nice thread, then you all get recognized.
Yeah, and from my side, I highly encourage students to join some companies just as intern or like part-time, because once you are actually working for a company, you can see more knowledge, like deep water knowledge, so you can understand how the Web3, the whole industry work, and you will understand like the basic knowledge. Because from my side, before I actually start my startup, I was just thinking about like Web3 is just about like crypto token, right? But after I really dive into the space, there are so many like details that I actually learned. So I encourage students just to join a startup or join a company just to start your Web3 journeys.
Yeah, I would say something very similar. Just start doing it, right? Download a wallet, start using DeFi, buy an NFT, start trading some crypto. Get into it. Find the rabbit hole that fits you and your interests and your passions, right? There's so many great communities that spawn around in crypto or Web3. There's basically a DAO for everything. Are you passionate about music? There's probably a crypto company that's working on music right now. Are you passionate about sports? There's a crypto DAO that's trying to buy an NBA team, right? Wherever you can contribute and bring something of value, and it's aligned with your interests and your passions, that's kind of the serendipitous part about crypto, is you can just start contributing. Go to the Discord, start subtweeting them. That's how I got my job, actually, was I just DM'd them on Twitter. And I was like, hey, I'm a really big fan. I would love to come work here, right? And I think it speaks to the idea of crypto where really if you are able to contribute something of value and you're aligned with the interests of the organization that you're trying to join, I don't see why you couldn't break into the space in a matter of months, if not weeks or days.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I think that the space is obviously very young. Not young in terms of like the people are young, but like in terms of just it is very nascent, it's new. And like in my experience, people don't really know what they're talking about. And like it's quite easy to gain a level of understanding of the systems and the culture in it. To get a level of understanding that can give you this vantage point, this perspective of like, I can better this in some way. And so it's like, it shouldn't be that, it feels like a daunting thing, but it shouldn't feel like a daunting thing because of how new it is. But I think in terms of getting a job, especially like if you find a place that you like really like the culture of and the vibe of, just kind of look at the thing that you want to do and then look at how they're doing it and then basically be like, are they doing it right? And if they're not, then figure out how to do it right and deliver to them essentially a roadmap on how to do it right. I have literally hired someone because they've done that to me, and I've been like, oh, I didn't realize that I was totally doing that wrong. And it doesn't take that much, at this point, formal education, because people don't people don't understand a lot about this space yet, and it's all about kind of just like pounding the pavement and figuring out like what is going on. So yeah.
Whatever you do, don't give anyone your private key.
Yeah, don't do that. That'd be bad.
You have mine, so.
I actually do.
So for Jack, you mentioned you teach the class. What's it called?
The class name is called Blockchain Decentralized Applications, but really I just teach how to write smart contracts in Solidity.
Can you share more how you structure that class, and for students, what opportunities are there that they can take advantage of for learning more about digital assets or blockchain knowledge here at USC?
Yeah, so my class, first of all, you don't need to know how to program to take my class, so I assume no one knows how to program. It is a tough class. I run a very tight ship because I don't want to water down the class so that it gets easier in the end. Then what's the point of taking it, right? But so the way I teach is basically first I teach the basics of programming, and then in the context of Solidity, and then we start to do basically project-based homework assignments. And the midterm and final, they're basically just like another homework that you have to finish in a certain amount of time. And I like to believe that my goal is to give all the students the tools they need as well as a starting point. Because if you know absolutely nothing about something, then the most common question is I don't even know where to start, right? So hopefully, my goal is to give the students a place to start. My goal is to give them some basic knowledge when it comes to programming smart contracts so that they can venture out on their own to learn more things on their own, or read existing smart contracts and do all of that. And you don't necessarily have to be a developer. You can also be a project manager, because a good PM is usually one that also kind of knows how to program. Right. So there are a lot of job opportunities after you've taken the Solidity class. And also the capstone, the way I'm going to structure it is basically like a semester-long how to build your own blockchain startup class, group projects, and hopefully the project turns out to be something that's really great. So what I do is I basically take you through all the stages of running a startup, and really kind of set you up so that you're ready to face this world on your own, more or less.
Yeah, I do also want to share that. So I'm the president at Blockchain USC. It's a student-led blockchain group that we started back in 2018, and right now we have over 500 members. So how we can help you, not as in just students, but also the general public that wants to interact more with crypto people and crypto builders and the investors. What we do is on a weekly basis, we host these speaker events, discussion nights, builders nights, etc. And for these, we have brought in tremendous speakers, such as people from Pantera Capital, Shima Capital, A16Z. We also very closely work with Binance, the exchange, which is the largest crypto exchange in the world, if you haven't heard of it. So we have got a lot of resources together, and we've helped many kids getting hired to, Kraken, Binance, Masari, and so on. And we have a lot of projects here as well. We host hackathons and whatnot. So really a lot of opportunities here at Blockchain at USC. And if you want to find out more about it, all you have to do is go to Twitter or simply Google search Blockchain at USC to learn more about how you can better get involved, or how to basically just our events are open to anyone. So and they're all free, which is the greatest thing about it. So for my next question, I want to ask everyone, what do you guys think this space is heading towards in the next 5 years? Are we heading towards like a more decentralized path, or do you think more regulations will come in, and then you will see as more and more protocols evolved, some will become the leading protocols for that vertical and become essentially more, I say, centralized?
I'll go. So I believe once decentralization is out of the bag with the genesis block of Bitcoin being mined by Satoshi themselves, there's really it's inevitable, right? And it's very difficult to just eradicate this new radical thing that benefits the common people. Although sometimes, such as in the case of FTX, it may not seem that way because a lot of people lost all their money, right? But I believe the world will move to a more decentralized web or system. But at the same time, I believe that an entirely decentralized system is quite radical. You're basically saying no governments, no central banks, and whatnot, which I don't find entirely realistic, right? And my opinion regarding how the entire industry and how the world will react to it is that we're currently living in Web 2, and this new thing, decentralization thing, is called Web 3. And I believe that eventually we'll meet somewhere in the middle, Web 2.5, where both sides will make some sacrifices to make things a lot more useful. Because let's be honest here, how many people here have never forgotten a single password they set? Right? But in a truly decentralized world, if you forget what your private key is, which, by the way, you don't get to decide, and it's just 12 random words, which is a seed phrase, right? You can easily lose that, but then there's no forgot password button, right? So with things like that, just by misplacing the 12 words, you can lose your entire life savings. That's not going to give people a sense of security, right? So there's got to be some centralized custodians, such as FTX. But in the case of FTX, you can see that they were printing fake money and pumping up their valuation and misusing user funds. So, which is also very, very ironic because SBF is the person who was calling for more regulation. But we need more regulation that will protect the average consumer. So eventually, just to conclude with, I think it's going to be a Web 2.5 world moving forward.
Yeah, just to add on top of Jack said, and I think in the space it has to be more regulations because we've seen so many like those rag pull projects are happening in the space, and without like government regulation, people are actually losing money. Just like FTX, a lot of people put their funds inside and cannot withdraw yet. So I feel like, especially in the US, because everyone is doing like KYC at this moment, but I feel like in the future there will be more and more regulations. I feel like it's not a bad thing. It's actually just to make the whole industry more health. And from like infrastructure side, I feel like right now, still there are so many like missing pieces because just to think about it, like right now, if you want to use some decentralized dApps or like applications, right? You have to download your wallet, you have to create your wallet, and you have to purchase cryptos and paying gas fee for any transactions. And from my perspective, I want to say maybe in 3 to 5 years, we will see more and more those tools that people can actually use.
When the grandma can use it. When the grandma can use it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Like granny chat, right?
Yeah.
So everyone can just easily, download the app, use blockchain applications. So I think until then, there's still a lot of like missing pieces to be built in the space.
Enzo.
Yeah, I definitely think we're headed towards more decentralization. I think if we weren't, then kind of everything that we've been working on for the past 10 years really doesn't have a point, right? If we're not able to transact peer-to-peer in a way that's safe and, like they were mentioned, regulated in some capacity, I don't think any institutions would feel comfortable moving into crypto and DeFi or Web3. So what I personally think will happen is that these ecosystems will start to grow more and more. DeFi, NFTs, crypto, blockchain, and what will happen is maybe everyone won't have their own wallet, but you'll see abstractions on top of these ecosystems where people will be onboarded into crypto in ways that they don't even realize they're interacting with the blockchain. Look at an example like Reddit, right? Reddit launched NFTs on their platform, and they were able to onboard 3 million people into purchasing something on the blockchain without them even realizing that they were using some abstraction of crypto or NFTs. I think that was really good, and it was a really good use case to say that, hey, we don't have to do the work of educating everyone to understand what an NFT is, what Web3 is, what crypto is. I think that's a little bit too complicated. I think if we're able to deliver really cool and awesome user experiences for people, where we take advantage of these growing ecosystems and this nascent technology, then we're gonna be able to actually see a world where 1 billion people use crypto. And for that to happen, we have to have the next generation of builders come in who identify the pain points of interacting with the blockchain and crypto right now, who understand the benefits of decentralization and peer-to-peer finance, and are able to deliver better user experiences for people across the board, whether you're super crypto native or, like they were mentioning, your grandma. Eventually, everyone should be able to use the blockchain in some capacity, and everything that we're building right now will lead towards that future, which is a more decentralized and open and fair future.
Yeah, I like the Reddit example because it's like that seems like a product that was created by meeting people where they're at, as opposed to like, okay, how do we make this product derived from the blockchain fit into something? Like what is the next thing that we can like blockchainify? And I think that was cool because it was like, oh, people feel really connected to this digital identity they have. How about we now remove the kind of, the third party that is the arbiter of like who owns the digital identities, and we put that on the blockchain, and now it's like, oh, this is a much more, there's a lot more provenance to your ownership. Like that like makes sense as a kind of, as an application of blockchain. And I definitely agree with the fact that we're moving towards a space that is going to be like, you're going to be like slipped in blockchain, like products that incorporate the blockchain, and like you're not going to know. But it's going to make the experience and also like the philosophy of the experience better, because at the end of the day, you can actually own something as opposed to an entity owning something and then saying that you own it. I think that is where we're heading, and I'm more in this kind of like digital asset, like kind of art world, and so I don't have very strongly held opinions on where like crypto in general is going to go versus like, more centralized versus less centralized. I think that the events of the past few days are obviously, with the kind of this very big public blow up of two centralized exchanges like going at each other, it kind of gives the space kind of a bad rep. And a lot of people would say that this is a very strong argument for a more radical decentralization. And so, I mean, I think it's just kind of like a who knows kind of thing. I think that it's going to be, I think that we'll probably prosper more if it is a more decentralized space.
Nice. So before we wrap up this discussion, we'll take 2 questions from the audience. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks for coming, guys. I just have 2 quick questions. So since you guys are all undergrads or recent graduates, I was just wondering how applicable your degree has been in your journey in crypto. And since you guys were all part of firms that were at one point early stage startups that you guys were involved with, what do you think is the most important component in an early stage startup? Is it like funding, marketing, product? Yeah, thank you.
Any specific panelists you want that to be answered?
Yeah, I can go ahead. So last year I started projects. I feel like, last year is bull market, everything's flying. So for me, I was quite lucky because we participated in 2 hackathons and we got a lot of awareness from those 2 hackathons. And then we got funding, because through those exposure. But, at the end of the year, last year, we actually pivoted. So my point here is like, first, to be a startup, you really have to have a very strong team, because for early stage investors, I feel like people are investing in you, like your team is not just like your projects, right? Because you can always pivot. After you go to market, you probably cannot find product market fit, and then you can always pivot. but the team, is most important. So I think find a very strong team who share the same vision with you is very important.
Thank you, Stark. And please go ahead, sir.
Thank you. My name is Captain Bernardo, and I just wanted to circle back to that question you asked the panel. Given the blockchain systems that are now there and all these different chains, and seeing what's happened recently with the FTX and all the previous, I mean, don't you see that part of the kind of maybe solution to some of these issues would be a more transparent blockchain? A blockchain where, I mean, they're supposed to be public ledgers, right? Where, if they were public and we could see what, is actually behind the secret veils, it would make this whole system less needed to have regulations, right? Because the regulations have to come in to verify that what's on the, what are the assets that are backing these things, right? But if we had a more transparent, truly, disclosed blockchains, and people had to put those assets on chains, or at least put their, what it is that, is backing these different, stable coins or what assets and so on, you would have a much better and less need for regulation.
Yeah. Are you referring to Ethereum?
I'm sorry?
Are you referring to Ethereum? Like a complete transparent?
I mean, even the stable tokens, right? I mean, great.
I can answer
we're going to
this.
do an audit. Yeah, look at our audit, and we audit once a year. Come on.
Yeah.
I mean,
I completely agree.
or once a quarter, or whatever.
I completely agree with what you're saying. I would encourage you, if you agree with him as well, to look into DeFi. DeFi is a solution to exactly what this problem is, right? Where you have these centralized exchanges that say, your crypto is your crypto, when in reality they're lending out your crypto and they're going bust. And you wake up one morning and half your net worth is gone because you trusted someone else, right?
Correct.
DeFi instead allows you to trust code and math. And trusting code and math is a lot more secure than trusting someone in the middle. So we have decentralized exchanges like a Uniswap, which allow us to go directly to someone who is trying to take the other position in a trade. And we rely on code, smart contracts, and the blockchain, this public ledger that's transparent, to actually go and create a system where people are able to interact peer-to-peer, and we know exactly what's going on, right? I would encourage you to look into DeFi to understand, what's going on. DeFi was just created 3 years ago, and it already has billions and billions of dollars in total value locked into these protocols right now. And ask yourself, if something like FTX happened this week, what's the solution to that? Or is the solution already here? And is the solution just waiting to take over in the next 5 to 10 years? And like I mentioned earlier, maybe you don't see your grandma interacting with Uniswap, which has a unicorn mascot, with MetaMask, which has a fox mascot. But over the next 5 to 10 years, we could see abstractions on top of these protocols where you're able to trade everyday goods, peer-to-peer, in a transparent and open way. And we can actually take advantage of the blockchain, which is supposed to be this public ledger. So completely agree with what you're saying. Encourage everyone to go look into DeFi. We power a lot of it, and we're super excited for what the future looks like in the long term, because we think in the short term, there's going to be a little bit of pain, but that pain will lead to a more decentralized, open, transparent future.
I agree. AMMs are.
I'd like to
the
add
future of
something to
finance.
that, actually. I agree that all the blockchains, public blockchains, by definition, are fully transparent. Even if in programming, if you set a variable to private, you can still read it because all the storage is public. And I agree with the fact that like all these entities, they're doing a lot of opaque and sketchy stuff, right? But not to discount what Enzo said about DeFi, which is totally correct. But there are situations where you cannot avoid centralization. For example, the reason why most exchanges still exist, despite that DeFi is a thing, not only because of the user experience, but also because they're the fiat on and off ramps. Because we live in a world, we live in a society where
real money.
Yeah, so where the dominant currency is, US dollars or euros or whatever. And DeFi cannot move those money onto the blockchain, but exchanges can. And basically you're kind of forced to have these centralization points, just like how the Ethereum network, half of it is run on AWS servers. It's just an unfortunate thing, an unfortunate combination of we kind of just have to have this because there's no other way to do it, and also it's a lot more convenient for some people because on exchanges, even considering the trading fees, it's sometimes cheaper than doing swaps on DeFi, where the fees you pay is highly dependent on market conditions. So I agree that with more transparency, we can have a lot less regulation. But on the other hand, sometimes centralization is inevitable. But in the case of, for example, FTX and their FTT token, the FTT token, as we saw, it went from $22 a couple days ago to like what, $4 right now. The smart contract itself it's totally transparent on chain. The problem is the person who's controlling it and the entity controlling it is opaque. Now that's kind of inevitable again because it's an exchange and we need exchanges to move money between two different systems. So and again, I agree with what you said, but I think there are certain things that are very difficult to do away with, and that's why we need regulation to help us deal with that, to help us avoid things like FTX from happening again.
Exactly. I do
Thank
think
you.
centralized exchanges, especially centralized exchanges affiliated with these VCs, right? Like there needs to be better laws or legal frameworks regulating those things because that's liquidity on ramp. That's where the DeFi liquidity coming from, and that's why you're seeing when one crashes, all the others fall with it, right? So definitely agree with what Jack said.
I agree. Thank you very much, panel.
Thank you for the question.
Awesome
Really
question.
good. So I think we'll just wrap up the conversation here, and since we're running over time, but thank you everyone for participating in this panel. We have one of the greatest,
Tremendous.
the greatest panelists on the panel.